Welcome to another edition of Beyond the Bench with Judge Ron Arnone. I'm Judge Arnone, and today I'm going to welcome a guest and a really a special edition of Beyond the Bench. Warren, I want to welcome you to Beyond the Bench.
Thank you,
Nice
thank
to-
you, thank you,
nice to
sir.
see you here today.
Pleasure to be here. I'm
So-
honored to be on the show.
Thank you so much, and
Your honor.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to talking to you about this very important topic and subject matter that relates to our youth and our communities today. And why don't you tell me a little bit about what it is that Three Rivers is doing to that end to help out in the epidemic that we are focused on trying to get rid of with the drug problems in our communities?
Sure. Three Rivers has been around for, our roots started over 100 years ago in 1880 as a home for colored children. And then over the course of the century, it kind of gradually developed into what it is today, which is a community service organization, nonprofit that is geared towards helping enhance the community through education and just community advancement and uplifting.
Tell me a little bit about some of the initiatives that you've worked on more recently, maybe some examples of some of the youth that you've dealt with and the types of problems you're seeing in the community.
Well, because sports has always been the language that I've been able to reach the children with, the platform. We've done summer camps. I've been a camp director. My first time was in 1998, and I actually wasn't paid for it, but I did a stint with another organization called Second Chance. And we work to keep kids safe out throughout the summer by having a basketball league for them to play in. And we were able to give them little nuggets of self-esteem and how to use their time wisely, to value their education, all those kinds of things. We had a lot of positive role models around for them that they were able to talk to. And communicate with, and some of the kids I still talk to today. So that's one of the things that we've done. Right now, I go into the schools in the inner city with Pittsburgh Public Schools. Our organization has a partnership with them, and I go in as a prevention specialist, which is basically like a floating health teacher, and we try to take that proactive measure, the preventative, to get the kids while they're young, before they hit middle school in high school, when all those bodily changes, hormones, and the peer pressure becomes too much to bear.
Yes.
So we try to prepare them so when those moments do happen,
That's right.
to make those decisions.
And I wholeheartedly agree and understand that philosophy, and certainly that's something that I believe to prevent them before they get into that stream where they're in the teenage years, and it's so difficult because when you're among your peers, you're trying to emulate
Yes, sir.
some of the things that they're trying to do, and that's some of the things we talk about in a program that I developed, and I'm hoping maybe we can collaborate a little bit and even do some things together in the future.
Absolutely.
But in that regard, our program is called LEAD.
Okay.
The acronym stands for Leadership, Education, Accountability, and Direction. And it's really a three-tiered program dealing with drugs and alcohol, social media, and leadership. And so the programs that you do in the schools, is this more of a one-on-one, or is it a group or a presentation basis?
It's both. It's primarily a group presentation. We work with the teachers, and whenever we have a situation where a student may need one-on-one individual attention, we do that. We address it there. But part of the creative process is making lessons for them that are engaging, that are captivating, because the way the children today, how their minds have grown, they've grown accustomed to the social media and electronics and things. So you can't just stand up there and lecture as if, when I was coming up. So part of that is a little challenging, being that the internet wave came after as an adult for me, but it's fun, and we're able to use music, we're able to use physical activity, and make it part of a type of a game, and where they're learning, and so that we also got to give them rewards as well. So we ask them what kind of things that they would want, what kind of snacks they would want, what kind of trips they would want, and we try to just kind of go from there to use that as a motivator to participate and take it seriously.
I agree, and I think that the rewarding part of it is obviously seeing kids come out and challenge themselves and try to focus on the positive stuff.
Yes, sir.
And so what you're doing is fantastic, because it's something I preach a lot, and that is particularly as it relates to athletics, and I know that's near and dear to your heart. I believe that kids involved, kids that are active and participate in athletics and programs like that, are the ones that are going to be more inclined to be staying out of trouble.
Yes, sir.
You agree?
Yes, sir. Those are something that we call protective factors in our industry, and I'm a living testament of sports being an anti-drug. It was the way that I was able to connect. It was a way that I was able to fit in. It was a way for me to express myself. It was a way for me to care for my body. It was a way to build network and build a team concept that I've been able to take into my professional career off the court, beyond the bench, so to speak. So those are the types of things that are imperative for kids, because everybody wants to belong, and everybody wants to be cool. And everybody wants to express themselves. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I believe that we are here, to give back and to make the world a better place, but expressing ourselves in a way to where it's positive, it's wholesome, and it helps others, so that you can leave a legacy behind, so to speak.
That's tremendous, and I really believe that these are the kind of programs that when you talk about seeding, that's what you're doing in your community, and that is something that I think is fantastic. I throw a number out here right now regarding primarily the heroin problem in a lot of the communities. And in 2017, over 70,000 deaths due to overdose. Can you imagine that? Yes, nationwide.
Okay.
70,000. That's an alarming statistic.
It is.
And we talk about this being an epidemic, and it is an epidemic. And so, how much of the heroin use and that kind of stuff are you seeing in some of your schools and some of the inner city and the programs you deal with?
That number is staggering, and I'm glad that we have taken it seriously to try to combat it. My particular experience with it, I have seen it in the schools. I have seen it. I'm sure most of those students or most of those people, that did unfortunately pass away were probably between the ages of 18 and 30, I would guess. Because it's that's around the age where you like to experiment and hang out with your friends and all those kinds of things. And also it's an age of ignorance, not knowing how serious it is.
That's very true. And in fact, you're right on the money. As a matter of fact, young people between the age of 18 and 25 are the most growing users of heroin.
Yes.
How about marijuana? I mean, I have to imagine you're seeing a lot of that in the community, and I'm wondering a couple of things: how you're addressing it with this whole idea of decriminalization, one, and two, your thoughts of the recreational use.
Well, I'll proudly say I've never experimented with it, so I don't know what it's like I have maybe been in a situation where I've got some secondhand contact. But it's funny that you asked, because I actually had this conversation with 3 teenagers that were 16, 17, and 18 yesterday. And I asked them, I said, why, or what made you decide to start smoking weed? All 3 of them smoked. And one of them said, due to the decriminalization, it's not a drug, it's a plant. So and then the 3 factors were, one was stress. So the stress that they deal with, academic stress,
Sure.
stress at home with their chores or job, trying to get money. Second one was peer pressure, and the environmental factors that constitutes to that. And then the last one was depression, that they told me, depression and anger, not knowing how to manage their feelings. So I personally think that there are some medicinal advantages to it,
Sure.
Particularly with injuries and things like that. But I would say if you don't have a medical doctor to actually recommend it for you, that it would be something to stay away from, because it's highly addictive, and also you don't want to mess with the street version of it as well.
Thank you. You're now preaching to the choir that I certainly express, and that is, first of all, the street stuff could come from anywhere. It could be made in a lab. It could be coming from China.
Yes.
And you don't even know what it is you're smoking. And I
Right.
tell kids that a lot. I say, look, you smoking this stuff, and you don't even know exactly what it might be. It could be tainted with heroin. It could be tainted with some other substance that could send you into a seizure.
Yeah.
Or have you be addicted to something else, or have it be tainted with angel dust or something, and you got a whole other set of problems. But getting back, I agree on the medicinal end of things, but the idea of some of these things that you hear from some of these kids regarding stress and depression and so forth, that goes right to the core of self-medicating.
Yes.
And something that should never be done. And the idea of the decriminalization, I'm going to stay away from that just because, I have to deal with it on a daily basis.
Yes, sir.
But I know it can be confusing, and that's why I like to talk about it a little bit because, according to statistics from 2017 and 2018, 6% of high school students smoke marijuana on a daily basis.
Wow.
Some of the things we like to talk about is the idea of all the pain that doing drugs, whether it be marijuana or heroin or cocaine, and they're all dangerous and detrimental to your health if not used properly. And if it's illicit, if it's illegal, it shouldn't be used at all. And like you had mentioned earlier, if drugs are taken, they should be prescribed by a doctor. Because what a lot of kids might not realize is when they talk about the plant, a lot of other drugs come from plants.
Cocaine, yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
So, I mean, let's face it, it's, it's something that shouldn't be messed with.
Yes, sir.
Unless you know what you're doing. Drugs can cause emotional pain, physical pain, financial pain. Talk about that a little bit. Talk about the idea of what this does to a family, to a community, and to a person.
Well, I've personally been affected by it. When I was younger, I remember playing with roach clips, thinking they were like little Indian things to play around with for cowboys and Indians, but it was really a drug paraphernalia, and I had no idea that it was that. And in fact, those same family members are still struggling with that today.
Sure.
Those same drugs that they started out with, and maybe even worse now. So, I want to try to get kids away from having the attitude of, I'm going to be the exception to the rule. I'm not going to be a statistic. I'm the one that's invincible. It's not going to happen to me. Having that that attitude is is very dangerous, because most of us are predisposed to some, addictive
right.
behaviors,
Yep.
and some of the things might have been, in your family, some things are hereditary, whatever, and so when you have the addiction on an individual level, it goes down to the kids and then ultimately the community. So early on for me personally, I decided to be as drug free as I possibly could, and like I mentioned earlier, basketball was my way to basically, if you scientifically do it, get naturally high.
Yep.
It was my way to
That's right.
get my endorphin rush. It was my way to feel alive, And one of the things that kids don't understand is that when you experiment and you try drugs that first time, you're always chasing that first high
Well, that's
again,
right.
and you'll never hit it again.
That's exactly
so you
right.
continue to try to let your body feel that same rush, that same adrenaline, and it never does it. So you continue to try to do more and take more, and that ultimately causes a resistance in your body, and before you know it, you're putting yourself in the risk of being doing an overdose.
That's right. And the fact of the matter is, heroin in particular, it really takes over your brain. It controls certain, activity in your brain. The opioid controls the messages with regard to pain, and then, like you said, you're always chasing that high that you'll never get again, but you're chasing it because that drug's controlling your mind.
Right.
It's altering the way you think,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a scary place to be, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And the other thing I like to talk about that I'm sure you see all too often is these drug dealers and the fact that they're in our communities.
Yeah.
And I want you to talk about this idea, because these drug dealers don't care about those kids. They care about money. They
Right.
care about trying to get them addicted, making them high, and then having a customer.
To have a drug dealer mentality, I believe that you kind of have to have a careless attitude,
Yes.
that you don't really want to help anyone. I'm on the polar opposite of that.
Yep.
I try to take kids away from that. I think we kind of can get into a lot of different socioeconomic situations when you talk about, why the kids are actually selling drugs and everything like that. That kind of crosses over into the educational piece, and I would like to wholeheartedly believe, I'm not sure, but I would like to believe that no kid, when they're younger, says that they want to be a drug dealer when they grow up. If they don't have to, if that would be their last option.
That's right.
They want to be an entertainer first, some kind of sports athlete,
Yep.
some kind of,
Yeah.
on TV or something.
And I'm sure that that's the truth in the case.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to do, right?
Yes,
we're
sir.
trying to engage the youth in a more positive perspective, to encourage them sort of in the way of the life that you led, going the route of athletics and getting a college degree and becoming a successful person like you are, and basketball helped you do that. It doesn't just have to be basketball, though. It could be the theater. It could be a musical instrument. It could be rap. It could be so many different things that could lead someone to a better place. And I think that's what we need to show, that they should be chasing.
Yes.
And not chasing the lie,
Right.
and the destruction,
Right.
and the death,
Right.
or jail. And so I think people like yourself in our communities are so important.
Thank you.
And I really appreciate the conversation we had here today. Any last thoughts or anything that you'd like to kind of wrap up with?
Sure, and I appreciate you saying that. I would like to let all the kids know that everybody has a gift. It's our job to find our purpose in life. And at a young age, in kindergarten, a little bit after, we kind of learn some of the most important skills in life, right from wrong, learning how to share, learning how to be with people. You can kind of get a good idea at a relatively young age what's good and what's bad, what's positive or negative.
That's right.
We don't need to see any more proof that when you decide to experiment with drugs, when you decide to use them, when you decide to take them illegally, that's wrong. That's the wrong side of the tracks that you want to be on.
That's right.
You want to use the technology that's out now, the things that are available to us that weren't available to my generation.
Mm-hmm.
You want to use that to your advantage to find and tailor your skills, talents, gifts, and interests to be a positive citizen to our society and not basically taken away from it.
That's right, and you can be successful doing that. I'd like to thank our guest, Warren Wilson, here today. What a fine gentleman, and he's doing so many good things in the community. We would now like to introduce your attention to a real-life story of addiction. Frankie is a Pittsburgh resident who shares his road from substance abuse through recovery to a contributing member of our community in Pittsburgh. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy it.
All right, guys. My name is Frank Volpe. Frankie is what everybody likes to call me. And I want to give you guys a little inside, raw story about my addiction and what happened and how it happened. To start out, I will like to say that I had a great childhood, probably the best childhood. Everything was going great. Growing up, I always wanted to be a sound guy. Concert sound engineer is the title that I always strive to get. And at 16 years old, I got that wish. I started working for a local company in Pittsburgh, and throughout the years, I started to learn the business. And around 18, 19 years old, I was full-blown in the industry, working, doing concert tours, traveling all over the place. And that's when the addiction hit me. I hurt myself. I hurt my lower back. And in that line of work, there's no such thing as calling off. I mean, you have sold-out crowds all over the place, so you have to keep going. And someone offered me Percocet, and that was the beginning of the downfall of my life. Little did I know at the time. It was interesting because at first it wasn't a problem. I took it as prescribed, but somewhere along the way I double dosed without realizing it, and it gave me that extra kick, that extra perk to keep going. And little by little, throughout the years afterwards, it started to spin out of control because I realized that drug could keep me going. But I didn't realize at the time what it was doing to my life. And fast forward a few years later, everything was going great. I didn't think I had an addiction problem. It was just something to take on the weekends to keep me going. And I would say about 10 years ago is whenever it started to spin out of control. 2010, I had it all. I had it all in the palm of my hands. I had the beautiful Mustang convertible, had the beautiful girlfriend, had the house, I had it all. And little by little, the drugs took it away from me without me realizing it. And this is a story that I hope I can touch at least one person out there to keep you away from this, because this drug is not a joke. Everybody starts out taking it recreationally. I did. Little by little, it will control you like it controlled me. You will end up being a slave to that drug. And that's where my story starts to get out of control. It got to the point where I wasn't taking the drug anymore to take that pain away. I was starting to take it just to feel normal. And that's what a lot of people forget about. And a lot of people, call junkies and addicts and anything for their next fix. But what people don't realize is they're not the chemically altered brain when you come off of that drug is so chemically manipulated and polluted. You need that drug just to feel normal to keep you going. And that's what addicts, me being a former addict, would do. The last week of March 2018, and what I'm about to tell you is nothing that I remember. It's what I was told by my family, close friends. and hospital papers. They supposedly found me in my apartment from an apparent overdose, heroin overdose, along with benzodiazepine overdose, and I was supposedly there for 3 days. My organs were shutting down, and I don't recall much of it. I do recall laying there, and I remember seeing to my left, seeing a officer flashing his light in my eye, but I remember I wanted to speak, but I couldn't. And next thing you know, I guess a month and a half went by, and I woke up in a hospital. I had to learn how to walk again. I had to learn how to talk again. I had to learn how to write again. And I'm very fortunate to be here. Supposedly, from what I was told, I was in the ICU for over a month and a half, and I was in a vegetative state where my family had told the hospital that I was revived. My family told the hospital that if they needed to revive me one more time, to just let me go. And according to my brother John, I was playing with his keys for over 3 hours, and he told me I was a 6-month-old little baby. And it hits hard because it's a shame that you have to go to that level to realize you need help. I went to the Salvation Army in Southside, Adult Rehabilitation Center. And what differs from their rehabilitation center, I was at Harbor Light prior to that. I was there for about a month, and then I transferred over. And what makes it completely different is you're not going to like it at first. I didn't. But the structure is what teaches you there. What differs from their rehabilitation center is they have 2 majors in charge there, Major Morris McCullough and Major Donna. And I mean, to be raw with you, they mean business. Between you, they have, the 2 majors in charge, then you have the 2 house guys in charge. You have Mr. Smiley, Mr. Curtis, and Mr. Dwayne, 3 of them, excuse me. And they teach you. It's a whole new experience because they teach you how to live life soberly again. And what differs from that rehabilitation center compared to other rehabilitation centers is you have to get up at 5:45 every day. You have to make your bed every day. You have to work from 7 until 3:30, 4 o'clock. You come back, you eat dinner, then you take rehabilitation classes at night. So by the time the day is over with, you're tired. You want to go to bed, but it teaches you how to work again. I graduated the program on January 26th, 2019, approximately 4 months ago, if I'm not mistaken. And I moved over to the alumni building next door. And the rehab saved my life, literally. It taught me how to work again. It taught me how to do things that taught me how to build new habits. One of the instructors teaches us we're all about creatures of habits, and we have to build new habits, and that's exactly what the program teaches you. Is it teaches you how to work again. It teaches you how to make your bed every day, something I haven't done for 13 years. But over there, if you miss making your bed one day, they put you on restriction. It's a very strict program, but it teaches you. Now I'm in the entertainment business again. I'm an entertainment director at a local facility, and life is beautiful. I live life naturally. I do not take anything other than maybe ibuprofen if needed. But I have a whole new life now, and I never ever would have been where I'm at if 2 things didn't happen. If my family didn't take everything away from me when I was in the hospital, they took away my apartment. They took away everything that I owned, including the shirt on my back. I didn't like them for it. I felt betrayed. But that's what taught me. It taught me to start from scratch. And that's where the Salvation Army ARC in Southside came in and saved my life, because they taught me to earn everything. Everything that I have now, 4 months later, I earned on my own. I've learned that I can get through the day without taking a drug. I got my power to do what I want to do when I want to do it, and I'm not a slave to that drug anymore.